Hi, my name's Jason, and I have a story of an unlikely life trajectory. It started with an event during my adolescence. This guy here, that's a 15-year-old me. Got my Black Flag t-shirt on, fully ensconced in my punk rock ethos at this point. So the collision of a 15-year-old me and punk rock was an event, a causal event in my life that led to two different things that I'll explain in a minute. But punk rock was the one thing that I truly loved as an adolescent, and one thing that brought me joy. So much to the point, my only conduit to it during that time, I grew up in rural Western Washington, as you can see from the photo. Sunday nights, the University of Washington College Station, KCMU, had a hardcore show, 1 hour. I think it was 8 o'clock on Sunday nights. So I'd be in my basement bedroom, my shitty Sanyo receiver, trying to lock in that signal. Is a function of just my shitty receiver and the weak transmitter from KCMU that I could barely grab it. It was like trying to tune in, a shortwave broadcast from Bora Bora, like in the 1930s or something. And I'd get it, and I'd listen for that hour, savoring every second, and I would have access to these bands in LA and New York and these exotic places that I'd never been to, and this music that really spoke to me on this visceral level. It was this loud, fast, aggressive music that was essentially this sonic middle finger. And as I was kind of this 15-year-old gawky walking middle finger, we complemented each other. So, punk rock, yeah, this is my soundtrack, and I went with it. So, but what I'm going to talk about is how that event kind of started with this guy and ended up with this guy later on. That's Afghanistan, I think, 2004. Just off a target there, it's about 5 in the morning. So, punk rock had two effects on me that are relevant to the story. The first one, it inspired me to learn to play guitar. So prior to that, I would listen to bands like Black Sabbath, say a song like A National Acrobat. And listening to that, it would never occur to me that, I could pick up a guitar and play that. It didn't even come into question. But I would listen to Black Flag, Nervous Breakdown, and go, I could probably play that. That inspired me to go get my first shitty electric guitar. I learned by playing along with the records, eventually played with bands in high school, and then went on to play music professionally for a few years, which is something that would have never happened if it were not for punk rock. The second effect, probably the one that's more relevant to the story, was what this loud, fast, aggressive music entailed was this kind of loose philosophical doctrine of individuality, question authority, think critically, think for yourself, things like that I was also on board with. So as the aesthetic aspect of it spoke to me viscerally, this kind of loose philosophical doctrine connected with me on a more cerebral level. So I was all in as this punk rock kid. Fast forward several years down the road, I'm living in San Francisco. I'm a professional rock musician, not rich, not famous, but I'm making a living off rock, which is something. So it was the year of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, absolutely. I had no structure in my life other than touring commitments. But underneath the surface of kind of living the dream, I was profoundly dissatisfied. So I started kind of examining, okay, what's going on here? I had this constant kind of weight on my shoulder, this sublime malaise that I couldn't put my finger on for a while. But I finally did, and it was like, okay, I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. It's not, something that at one time brought me joy is no longer bringing me joy. So okay, let's work the problem. Where did the idea for going into the military come in? I had a friend who was a filmmaker, and before he was a filmmaker, he was a Navy SEAL. And he would tell me about it, and I didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was before that. But he'd tell me the stories, and I'd pick his brain about it a little bit and go, okay, military thing is something I never thought about before. What do you think? And he's like, hands down, the best decision I ever made in my life. It's like, it challenged me in ways I'd never been challenged before. Complete job satisfaction. And when I left and went out and did other things, that's still kind of the part of my life I'm most proud of, and the part of my life that kind of made me who I am today. So I took that away with me and kind of mulled this over for a long time. Like, yeah, military, maybe that's a viable option for my situation right now. I came to a conclusion, like fall of that year. I just finished a European tour, played all the big festivals. It was fun, but it was a distraction. Had a month break in the Bay Area, and then going on a US tour later that fall and winter. And so I started examining a little bit more. It's like, okay, work the problem. Why am I doing this? Why am I still kind of sticking with the rock thing, even though I'm not really getting anything out of it anymore? And I kind of came to this conclusion. It's like external validation versus internal validation. Was I doing this? Was I a musician because I thought that other people thought it was cool that I was doing it, or was I doing it because I thought it was cool? And the conclusion I came to was, well, I'm definitely not doing it because I think it's cool, because I don't really think it's that cool anymore. So decision was basically made. I was going to finish my touring obligations. And yeah, a couple months later, I'm at 30th AG, Fort Benning, Georgia, getting my head shaved. So, the military. What did the military do for me? They challenged me in ways that I'd never been challenged before, just like my buddy who's a SEAL. The selection programs I went through for the units I served in, and the training on top of that were like, I mean, I look at it now and it's still kind of crazy. On top of that, you have the experience of war and combat, which there's no substitute for that. You can read about it, you can talk about it, you can have these hypothetical situations, but until you experience it, it's a unique and kind of rarefied event. So I was challenged in the military. And what I found with challenge leads to achievement, and achievement leads to joy. That's kind of the formula. It seems really obvious, but it took me a long time to figure it out. So and joy might not even be the appropriate word, but just kind of this life satisfaction. Another thing I got out of the military was human relationships. The deepest, most meaningful human relationships I ever, to this day, still have were men I served with in the military. Guys that I called brother, and not in a glib or ironic way, like I meant it, they're my brothers. And I said it without even thinking about it. I never, as much as I like these guys and still are friends with a lot of them today, guys I played music with, I never called them brother, because I didn't feel that way. The military set me up for things I did post-military. One thing is like going to Columbia University. Like without my military experience and the things I achieved there, it would have never have occurred to me to apply to Columbia. It would have been absurd. I'd been, no, that's not going to happen. So basically, by turning my back on this world of cool, and that's an aesthetic judgment, but it was important to me at the time, or at least I thought it was, basically kind of sloughed off these shackles of cool, instantly felt this weight lifted off my shoulder, that malaise I talked about, and I felt free. And then I was in basic training for 3 months after that. So I'd like to say, just to wrap this up, punk rock, that was the thing. I like to think it was the thing that kind of led me where to I am today. And it's a counterfactual. It's like, would have things been different otherwise if I'd been born at a different time, did not discover punk rock, who knows? But this is my experience. I would like to close with 2 quotes. One's from a man named Ernst Junger. He was an assault platoon commander in World War I, and wrote a book about it after the war. And I've always liked this quote, and it still resonates with me. Time only strengthens my conviction that it was a good and strenuous life. And for all its destructiveness, the war was an incomparable schooling of the heart. Second quote from a San Diego hardcore band called Battalion of Saints. Be yourself, who cares what they say? Be yourself, be it right or wrong. And final thing, when I listen to Black Flag today, I still get goosebumps on my arms. Thank you for your time.